Okay, so thank you all for attending today. This is part 2 of the webinar series, which is a guide to the Autodesk regional hubs, practical tools and use cases. So this is all around today, the importance of data, taking control of how your business can manage that data and move forward. So just a brief agenda today. We're going to be going through an introduction just to set the scene, a recap on part 1, just for those of you who could not attend, and then we'll get into the context of managing data, looking at different solutions and use cases, and then also next steps, followed by a Q&A. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please drop them in the chat or the questions section at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, and we can get to that towards the end and discuss any questions you may have. So, quick introduction. So, hi all, my name is Tom Rudge. For Symetri, I am go-to-market lead here in the UK and supporting that aspect of it.
Hi all, I'm Sean O'Dwyer. I'm the ECO Business Manager for Symetri UK and Ireland, based here in Ireland. Thanks very much, Tom. And as Tom mentioned, please put in as many questions as you think of throughout the course of this webinar. We'll happily answer them at the end, and they're completely anonymous, just so that people are aware of that. So to recap on what we discussed at the previous webinar, where we discussed the Autodesk's regional hubs, the key takeaways on this session where everyone was in their data journey, from moving areas of data from local to cloud, from platform to platform, hub to hub. We also discussed automation and backups and archiving. What strategy did you currently have in place? We also discussed the introduction of these new servers that Autodesk have created under their portfolio, and how in certain instances customers and clients like yourselves would like to migrate these back into whatever region they feel more secure with. Another key takeaways were how and what your regional cloud storage were projects, what tools were used, migration and GDPR. We also discussed benefits of the Symetri solutions, and we also discussed how we can support all these migrations. We also asked polls throughout the course of the session. These are the questions that were asked. And with those polls, we were able to compile these into results. So based on one of the poll questions was, which data issues do you find most challenging? So the majority of the answers came in at backups and archiving. So this is great to get some feedback for us to Symetri, so that we can advance and develop our solutions as well, and also to meet with yourselves and present how we can answer and provide solutions to these key challenges. Another question was, which hubs do you store your Autodesk data on? The majority were on EU. Nearly a quarter of the attendees were not sure, which is a potential problem, because this is what we need to do, is empower you and provide you with the knowledge of understanding where your data resides, and that's something that we can have discussion offline as well with you.
And I think that, Sean, for me, is a key area for people here today, just around the fact that 22% of people from the previous webinar weren't sure where the data was located in terms of region. Yeah. That's a factor for us doing this webinar, really, just to make you guys aware. And if you do not know, of course, for us to work with you to have a look into that and figure that out.
Exactly. And we have a consultation QR code at the end of this that we can you can register for, and we'll happily have a chat with you. The final one was, where's your data currently stored? A good chunk is on a local instance, and it might work with you as an organization. It might not work. We can discuss that with you on the consultation. Another one is that it's on another provider and people are still using BIM 360 as a data hosting solution, whereas the majority are on ACC, which is good. And for people who weren't able to attend the webinar, if you want to watch the recording, click on the QR code and we'll happily, you can happily view the recording. I'll leave this up for another few seconds there. We can provide a link on this at the end anyway as well. That's no problem. So next we'll move on to managing your data.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for that, Sean. So as we mentioned, hopefully looking at the polls, giving you that insight, there's a lot of questions when it comes to data, and I think it's all around having confidence when it comes to that data piece. So getting into it now, data. Data is at the heart of every single company. It doesn't matter on the size of your company. It doesn't matter what you do. Everything evolves around it, even from a project perspective to the way you work internally. Next slide, sorry, Sean.
Okay.
So going back to that question a second ago around what are you trying to do with your data? You know, we've got some examples here around if you're considering looking at digital twins in the future, if you're considering looking along the lines of AI and how that can improve your business, if you're looking along the lines of, again, improving your common data environment, being more structured and working better in terms of with other people in collaboration, it doesn't really matter. But the point we're trying to get at is whatever you want to do in the future, it all starts with getting your data in order and working with that data to meet your end goal. If you don't have it correct, if you're not on top of your data and ready for what the future brings, you're starting from a position which isn't ideal. You need to make sure you're confident, as I mentioned, with how you've got your data. And that comes back to sort of this consolidation of data with making sure it's in one location, you've got full visibility. And again, if you do wish to transition into one of these areas, you can do it with confidence. So I'm going to ask the question again, where is your data? And again, I'm going to keep referring back to them polls, but as you can see, you know, there's a variety of different places where people are working at the moment, and that's from, you know, from on-premise and working locally to SharePoint to other cloud solutions, such as if that is in Autodesk or away from that in terms of Viewpoint or Procure, anything along them lines, really. So if you just click through these, sorry, Sean, just thinking of these points then, you know, getting you to consider where exactly is your data, I think is the key point around this. And just so you can reflect on that going forward, so you're confident you've got it in the correct place. And again, you're going to be in the best position from a future perspective.
Yeah, and backups are key because of risk avoidance. Customers are looking to have a risk strategy in place, and that's something that you should consider as well. Okay.
Brilliant.
So we just move on to a few solution and use cases where we have worked with our clientele and presented our Symetri solutions to assist them. So here are some examples that we've used Symetri data solutions for customers, where we worked off of on-premise, like a local instance to BIM 360 or ACC, or even vice versa, moving from BIM 360 to on-premise as a backup. Another one would be from hub to hub, which would be ACC to ACC or BIM 360 to BIM 360. And we've also done platform to platform, which would be BIM 360 to ACC. We've also worked with customers where we've provided services and solutions for automation and even for intelligent archiving. So we'll just focus on the on-premise to BIM 360 ACC. We were tasked by a customer, Glenua. They're an Irish company working within the water sector, and they had a challenge. They wanted to migrate some files from local to the cloud. They had loads of legacy projects on servers, and they tried loads of solutions, and they kept coming across the 256 character limit. They tried the desktop connector, and it was just constantly processing and taking a lot of time. They had up on 10 to 15 terabytes that needed to be migrated from local to the cloud. They were also winning more phases of projects, and they were starting to acquire other companies. So we were contacted, and we provided a proof of concept. They were very happy with the use of Cloud Manager. So we were able to bypass the 256 character limit. We started to work on a virtual machine where we connected to the servers and migrated them up to their ACC instance where they have unlimited data storage. We also had weekly catch-ups with them to provide progress, and this has progressed, and we're near completion on that task. They're also starting to use Nebula to migrate from their local cloud to other projects as well, from BIM 360 legacy projects to new appointed phases within other projects that they've been working on.
So a big point, Sean, for these was to do with that collaboration,
yes,
wasn't it? To do with how they can work better with the team, the reason for moving to cloud, for the aspects of being able to share that information and be a bit more dynamic when it comes to project setup and working across the board.
Correct. Yeah, and it's more of a teamwork. We became more of a valued partner than just a solution provider, which was key, and it built up that relationship with the customer. Another instance then would be hub to hub migration. So working on the fact where the projects and let's say the new servers were introduced. So I'm just going through a quick evolution of this. It started off in the US on BIM 360, then EU was introduced with ACC alongside it, and then shortly afterwards the Australian server was introduced, and then all of a sudden there was this explosion there recently of these additional 5 hubs. So we had customers wanting to migrate these across from let's say the US to the EU, or even customers who had an EU server wanting to migrate to a UK server, and that was all great. Like there's loads of stuff that can benefit from these hubs being announced. Is you can have as many of these hubs in your account as you want. You could have 5 US servers and 1 EU server, or vice versa with the likes of a UK server. You can meet all your legislation requirements on these as well, and GDPR compliance when tendering for projects. Some people might be tendering for Ministry of Justice or Department of Defence projects where you have to have a UK server to meet those requirements. But there's a few limitations with this announcement, and that is that you can only migrate from, say, server to server. So example would be the US server. You can only migrate, if you've multiple instances of a US server, you can only migrate between them. So that's where Nebula comes in. We can break those limitations, and we can migrate from US to EU server, EU to UK, and these can take versions and files and folders. There's also no limit to the files and folders that can happen on this as well.
I think from my side, Sean, just showing this dynamic now, as you can see, it's been a rapid change in terms of bringing these new hubs in. So it's gone from, the one hub being the US to the second hub being in the EU, and then Australia. And we've gone from basically 3 hubs at that point to now going to 8. And I think the question is this going to carry on? Is there going to be more available? Yeah. Is it going to be, again, is it going to expand from here? And I think it goes back again to the point of knowing where your data is right now, because as you can see, it's growing. And by not having that visibility of how you're working at the moment, with Autodesk growing like this, and this isn't just Autodesk, this, you know, across the board with even Microsoft and other areas, I think it's showing the importance of knowing, again, where your data is, and just having the understanding that, yes, this is a changing landscape, and you need to be at the front of this and being aware of how you're working with data.
Correct, yeah. And there's rumors that there's a Chinese and a Saudi, or some other Eastern hub being announced, and a few more being announced in the coming months. So just something to be aware of. We just went, as Tom said, don't feel that you're alone on this. We're here happily to advise and provide solutions and give you a proof of concept if you want to migrate, and just see it in action, because it is a valuable tool to have under your portfolio. Another one is BIM 360 to ACC. It's just to understand that BIM 360 development is slowing down. The Autodesk are not putting a lot of development into it, so they're more focusing on the ACC. So customers are starting to migrate from BIM 360 to ACC, and they want to continue using the cloud solution, but they want to be at the foremost of the development. So we also have a customer who, the way they work is they have a BIM 360. This is before ACC was introduced. They had a BIM 360 tendering project where they kept all their files and tenders in that project, because they didn't want to be creating projects every time a tender was created. So what they did is they had one project called tenders, and they created a subfolder for all their tendering documentation. And once that project was awarded, if they were successful or not, they were to create an ACC project. They tried using Desktop Connector. Again, it was causing a lot of time, and it threw up a few errors. They also tried to look at ACC Connect. It needed a lot of recipes to be developed, and it needed to have a pretty good developer with experience in developing those recipes. So what we presented was Naviate Nebula. What that did is, once the project was successful in BIM 360, they just migrated that folder into a new project, and that took maybe about 5 minutes of connecting the nodes, and it had all the files, folders, and versions in that live project ready to push out onto the team. What we did is we did a discovery call, and again, like Tom mentioned, we kept on having a weekly rapport with the customer, and they're starting to use this across other areas in the business. So it's all about time saving, and with the Nebula, it provided a report so that they knew that if there was any files excluded, there was a reason why. Maybe there was an instance already in the destination project, but you were constantly fed with information regarding the migration. Working with the administration and automation. We have customers who were looking for a portal for administrators, because BIM 360 and ACC, it's bespoke enough. It's pretty easy to use and user-friendly, but there is repetitive tasks like adding members, creating projects, and there's stuff like automations. One thing to note, that with Nebula, if you migrated from an EU to a UK server, you migrated files, folders, versions, and now what's coming is Revit Cloud Workshare models will be migrated across. So you have all that migrated. Next is to migrate the members and the roles. That works in tandem with Nebula, which is Naviate Cloud Manager. So to give a few time savings that were worked with regards Naviate Cloud Manager. So if you were not considering Cloud Manager and you wanted to create projects, so you had 10 projects to create on BIM 360 or ACC, to create those, it would take 21 and a half minutes to do it. So with Naviate Cloud Manager, that will be done in 5 minutes to do it, which is 5 times faster service. You can also say, if you were migrating projects across from BIM 360, either from hub to hub or from platform to platform, and you had 250 projects, which would take 9 hours to create. This is just projects alone. You can use Cloud Manager that will do it considerably quicker. So you're saving 6 hours by projects, and it's just automation. That hourly time in Cloud Manager is not human hours. It's more the platform itself processing it in the background. It only takes you maybe just an uploading an Excel file of 5 to 10 minutes.
But I think from my side, Sean, on this, from again conversations we've been having around the data piece, again, it doesn't seem like much. You look at 10 projects, or as mentioned, with 10 users and daily, it doesn't seem like a lot. But when you start adding that time up over a year, and as your projects grow and as your team grows, that's when you start to realize the amount of time you're spending just on these admin tasks.
Yeah. And it's staff retention as well, because if you're working in a practice or a company and you're spending 9 hours just creating projects, you're going to explore other avenues. Whereas if you're using an automation and a tool that you feel like you're becoming the guru and the key champion with it, this is where you'll retain staff, and they'll start pushing its boundaries, and you'll start to get the best out of your resources. One thing to note is the users as well. That's a very, very fast tool for bulk adding users. And another solution within Navigate Cloud Manager is the automation of exporting PDFs, NWCs, and DWGs from models. So if you want to automate PDF publishing, if you want to automate NWC exports that you need to meet certain deadlines on a project, Navigate Cloud Manager can do that. And even if it's exporting a schedule of an export out of your models, it also has the upload. So if you had a client's platform that you had to upload every week 20 to 30 NWC exports, Navigate Cloud Manager will do it automatically in the background. So that's one thing to note. Moving on to archiving. This is starting to become very key within the business, where customers are being tasked to meet their ISO standards of disaster recovery. They're on about recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives. Do we have a backup if, God forbid, the cloud goes down? So we don't have a knock-on effect of people having to down tools and have no work to complete. So by using the platform Archive Hub, which a customer, Lomans, have used, their challenge was very similar. They wanted to have a requirement for continuous full document and metadata backup. They wanted to safeguard their business against potential revenue loss from outages, because they need to have maybe a 5-day or 10-day recovery point. They also wanted it to be automated, so that every week there was a backup onto either a local instance, or in their case into an Azure server, so that they knew that if the cloud ever went, they had a backup of the last previous days within, worst case scenario, 7 days or 6 days. So we provided Archive Hub solution, which took all of their field data that was held within ACC and BIM 360 and presented it in a backup location, which was viewable through the Archive Hub platform itself. It was automated, as what I mentioned, and the results of this is that they had a risk of data loss. It reduced that data loss risk, and they had more confidence in using the platform. It also assisted them on tendering projects, where on some parts of the tenders, a stipulation was, do you have a disaster recovery solution in place to compete and provide some assistance on projects? So that's another great use case of Archive Hub. So just to recap on, these are just 5 of our key solutions. We have a lot more that we can assist with. We have the on-premise to BIM 360 ACC. We have the hub-to-hub migration using Nebula. We have the BIM 360 ACC, or in some cases, we could use ACC to ACC, but it's within the same project. and same hub. It's just working smarter by using the tools. We also have the automation, which is the cloud manager, where we show the time saving and the automation of NWCs and DWGs. And finally, we showcased the intelligent archiving for Lomans, who were winning more work. They had more confidence in the platform, and they could provide a backup for their stakeholders. So moving on to the next steps there.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that, Sean. So I think
No
the next steps, if you can go to this slide, sorry. So it's what to consider, coming back to sort of what we said at the start again with the compliance and context. So again, the server location, is it in the EU? Is it over in the US at the moment? Just understanding that landscape, and just so you're aware of your situation at the moment. Cybersecurity framework. So again, managing the risk from a regulatory point of view with the requirements again across them hubs. The multi-regional management. So again, implications of AI, IoT, digital twins, but again, are in the future, and people are starting to look at them now and how we can start working towards them. Opportunities and best practices. So again, when it comes to metadata, not just 1,000 folders, but sharing that information, the actual content behind them, and mirroring the CDEs that are potentially available. And then finally, around that strategic takeaway. So again, future-proofing data strategies, reducing project risks, and scaling systems for emerging tech.
Yep.
So with that, if there's anything you're unsure about on today's webinar, what we've ran through, what we are doing at the moment is we're undertaking free consultations just to work with you to understand sort of where you're at the moment. As I mentioned before, where you're trying to go, just to see if we can help in that area at all. So please feel free to scan this link here if you'd like to have that chat. Again, we'll drop a link in, I believe, as well also. So again, that is there if you wish to run through that with us.
Yeah,